You're listening to the Go Lightly Martial Hour on freedomtalkradio.net. freedomtalkradio.net.
And
hello, darling. How are you?
Hi,
how's the world today?
Well.
well.
No, not well. All right, so it's Saturday, the 28th of February,
Right.
2015, and we're off. This will be our last show until we upload from India.
The next one.
Until the next one. Yeah. So we're off.
Yeah,
until
it's always the last show until the next one.
Yeah. Anyway, we should be able to upload to the radio, to the speaker deck. In India, we'll see about videos. We'll try to get them up there as we can, because we won't
get them
have
up, no problem.
we won't have Joel here to get them up and do all the what he has to do to get them up, all that kind of thing. So we'll just go with the flow. Oh, speaking of flow, I need some airflow. It's suddenly feeling hot.
Well, you better point it over here because you're coming around this side of the table.
Right, Yar's been working on another.
No, I put this together. It's sort of a bit rough. I really have run out of patience doing all this kind of stuff. But hey, it's there. You can have a look, see what you think of it. I'm trying to explain it, but when you're playing cards like I play cards with a stacked deck against Lucifer, Lucifer's so stupid. You could say, imagine it if you were in a pre-existence and Lucifer is challenging the Lord. Let me do this, let me do that. You can't stop me, I'll do this. And I'll say, yeah, go do what you like. So look at it from a point of view of a card game where each card is stacked. And we'll get to it as we go through this, and maybe Ash will explain it better than me, because I tend to blabber on about other things, and she hasn't looked at this yet.
Yes.
So you'll have to bear with her. And I will be here to answer questions, of course. And hopefully it'll be entertaining for you and give you a new surge of hope that it's almost a done deal.
Right on the other side.
Okay, now, if you put your chair down and don't start throwing your legs about like you're in a high chair, because it is hard to do.
It is hard.
You can't lower it down.
No, it's alright. Okay. So.
I with my enormous girth and weight, I sit on chairs and I bugger them very quickly. And unless they're made very sturdily, it's not going to last too long with me sitting on.
Alright. Are you going to move them forward? Or
Well, you can move your chair forward. Just don't hit,
well,
when you're moving, don't hit the tripod. And then just go up and down on this. Huh?
Right. I have put this presentation together to point out the dates of October the 8th, 1769, when Cook lands on New Zealand. He measures it with a Harrison clock over the next 6 months and discovers it lies between 888 miles. 888 miles between latitudes. In 1978, the same date, so this is October the 8th, the scientists finally get to examine the Shroud of Turin in Turin. 1996, the same date, October the 8th, I returned to Australia. I had told the Jews they cannot stop me. The battle for the souls of the earth ends in Australia via India. First, the forming of the image, this is on the Shroud of Turin, occurred after the tomb was closed on April the 3rd, 33 AD. A blood moon was in progress, and the last will be this coming April the 4th, 2015, 1982 years later. When I was 1982 weeks old, Ron Wyatt discovered the Ark of the Covenant directly under the cross, and that was on January the 6th at 2 p.m. in the year 1982. Hello, are we beginning to get the picture?
So it's a blood moon coming up on April the 4th.
This has just gone off.
Covered data. What is that?
Very odd.
All right, so we're starting off with a little bit of a
Technical
hiccup.
glitch.
So I'll change SD card. Suddenly the camera went off. That's not a sign.
Could be. That's what it was all about. The end. Oh.
Right, I've got another card here. We'll shove that in, see what happens.
So I'll go back to...
Stand by. Alright, I'll set her up again. We're back, ready to go.
Yes, so for the radio listeners, I'm going back to the beginning. Okay, I have put this presentation together to point out the dates of October the 8th. Beginning in 1769, when Cook lands on New Zealand, he measures it with a Harrison clock over the next 6 months and discovers it lies between latitudes that are 888 miles apart. Then the same date, in 1978, the scientists finally get to examine the Shroud of Turin in Turin. The same date, 1996, I returned to Australia. I had told the Jews they cannot stop me. The battle for the souls of the earth ends in Australia via India. Now, first, with the forming of the image of the shroud, it occurred after the tomb was closed, and that was on April the 3rd, 33 AD. A blood moon was in progress, and the last will be this coming April the 4th, 2015, 1982 years later.
Blood moon.
When I was 1982 weeks old, Ron Wyatt discovered the Ark of the Covenant directly under the cross, and that was January the 6th, 2 p.m. in the year 1982. The tomb was closed at 6 p.m. Saturn was directly overhead. 11:11 to 1:13 is a total of 842 minutes. 8:42 from 8:46 and 71:4 is self-complacent. That is content. Mars was overhead for 844 minutes. 8:22 to 22:26. 8:44. Automatos from 8:46 and the same as 3155. Self-moved, that is automatic, spontaneous, of own accord, of self. Uranus was overhead for 802 minutes. 8:02 from 1 as a negative particle and a derivative of 4934. Properly not agreed, that is treacherous to compacts. Covenant breaker. The moon was a blood moon, which can only occur when the moon is full and passes through the Earth's shadow, allowing only the red spectrum to illuminate the moon. Saturn 842, Mars 844, Uranus 802 and Jupiter 843. Total 3331. 3331 Metathesis from 3346, transposition, that is transferal, and in brackets to heaven, disestablishment of a law, change, removing, translation, 3331, yatsa, a primitive to show as a surface, or is that strew?
Strew.
Right, as a
Strew as a
surface.
surface. In other words, throw the shroud across the surface of the tomb.
That's right. Make one's bed. Hello.
So let's just
Lie,
explain
spread.
that, because you missed a little point there. Number one, the 844 is the reference to John 8:45, for you are of your father the devil, because it's automatic, talking to the Jews. Right? Now the law was abolished by the cross. That's the whole idea of coming. To open the pit of hell, to allow all of the people that of the Old Testament that died in righteousness but had no way out of hell because there was no comforter. I had to go into hell, and that is in, we get to that in the later in the program, showing the Great Pyramid over India, how hell is opened by my presence there. I have been to Colombo many years ago in 1967, which is part of India. And then it says, I'm going to heaven, right? Changing of the law, transferal, and then to heaven. And then spreading the bed is the Shroud of Turin on the tombs itself, on the bed of the tomb.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
The
Now
shroud.
these aren't the actual colours, they are a negative to show the way the face shows up. It is actually a slight yellow colour. The colour to the right is it's close, but it's not quite right, because I've got to copy these off the internet, so that's what it basically is. So it's more yellowish than that. So here's all the planets. We've just gone through all that, and it's saying record a memorial. Right. Now carry on, they can study that and look at it and slow it up and do what you like. Which way are you going now?
I went down. This must be a
Go down.
duplicate.
Okay, this is the Gematria for the cloak that I left at Troas with Capus, when thou comest bring thee with thee and the books, but especially the parchment. Now that is mentioned in the ravings of Paul. In other words, he was saying to Timothy, I think it was, 2 Timothy, that while you're over where the Essenes are in Edessa, get hold of the shroud and bring it back.
Yes.
Now, the value of that verse is 1163, which is the closest you can get to the width of the antechamber, which is 1162.6. So I put that there without a great deal of explanation in it, because I'm sort of rushing through this to get it done. So there's your 2 Timothy 4:13. This is Paul apparently giving orders. The cloak that I left in Troas and Carpus, when thou comest, bring with thee and the books, but especially the parchments. So on the internet, they're trying to indicate that this is Paul who was knowing about the Shroud of Turin.
And that's a total fabrication.
Oh, it's total fabrication.
He was a devil.
Yeah. Now when we go to the tomb of the Great Pyramid, the value of the tickets in numbers is 80 Egyptian pounds each, but you'll notice that the numbers are ending with 1162 and 1163. The other one was one which is covered up is what was it, 1164? Yeah, 1164. In any case, it's as close as we're going to get to you've got the 1163 number and you've got the 1162 number, which is the width of the antechamber. You have to say, what is the odds that the man himself would go to the Great Pyramid, which is the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt, and the tickets bought by someone else, not us, and handed to us on our behalf.
That's right.
And it is the numbers of the width of the antechamber within, and the age I was when I married my first wife, and the age difference between my third wife and I, and the age difference between my eldest daughter and my youngest stepdaughter.
Actually, the other ticket was 1161. It was 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Bloody amazing. Then you've got your 888 and the 80 pounds each, times 3.
Okay. Now, March the 20th, these are the two locations of a solar eclipse that's going to occur while we're in India on March the 20th. Now, I have more to put into it. I may add it to this later on today and then splice the two together. But March 20th is going to be the longest darkness over England ever.
And directly north, during the solar eclipse.
As you might have heard by now, and we've certainly been talking about it, but the Jews have been kicked out of every nation, 180 nations now, for something they've done. Like, why don't they ask themselves, what are we doing so wrong that we get kicked out? Is it a persecution complex, or is it the fact that we take the children, drain their blood, terrify them, and eat their bodies? Where does that come from? Well, everything reincarnates. So the demons that were destroyed in the first flood because they become so bad, being cannibals, they were eating people. Right? These are giants in those days too, because the actual gravity of the earth was less. So it was people well over 12 feet tall. Right? So they would capture nice people and eat them. Right? They had to be destroyed. Well, they're doing that again today. Now, their souls reincarnate because everyone's given a chance to be gathered together. That's why I leave the tares and the wheat together till the end time when the angels will reap them and kill them all. And keep the wheat. Put them in our garner. Right? Put them in the bin. Right? And the fire of the Word of God, which is the number 4443, that's how many times the Word of God is actually found. In 3877 verses, which is the distance from where I was born to the South Pole in miles, from the maternity ward at the Catholic hospital. A lot of people out there say, oh, Catholics don't like that. It's got nothing to do with what you like, son. It's what I like. And it's the Catholic Church that has been the one under attack. And they're full of demons, there's no doubt about it. So what we have here is the two locations of this solar eclipse. And I measured from there to the Great Pyramid, and it's 10101 kilometres for the three lengths. And the area within it is 372664. Now, there's much more which I haven't done, which I'll probably do this afternoon, and add it to this before we upload it. So, you can read that if you like.
Alright, so the March 20th, 2015, the longest solar eclipse over England will occur at 9:41 a.m. The sun is at the position north 15 degrees by east 66.39, and
that's a decimal point of 66.65.
Right.
So a couple of seconds later it's 66.66. Now there's 2 points there I didn't put into this program, but what it is the speed of the Earth varies each day, and as it was going past the sun was going. The Earth was going past the Sun in its orbit in 1943, on the date I was conceived, the same date in 33 AD. The speed of the Earth, that's April the 5th, the speed of the Earth at that point of resurrection was travelling at the speed of 66,666.666. Now we're dealing with a Bible that is satanic, that is Babylonian, and they count in the 6 numbers. So that's why, when you check it out, in the original King James Bible, 6,666 verses, and that's why the beast number of Solomon's gold is 666, because it's Babylonian. However, as the cards are stacked, we'll get down to it now. Just keep that in mind, those numbers, and when we get down to how I explained it a little better, maybe the penny will drop for you.
Alright, so the position that the sun and the moon are in at that point in time, there are 108 miles apart, or 93.7 nautical miles. 937 is from 935, it's regal in relation, that is belonging to the sovereign as land dressers, courtier, or preeminent kings, noblemen, royal. And 108, miles apart, of course, 108 is number of times the word ghost appears in the KJV. Now, again, March 20th, 2015, I will be, this is Yah, 26,001 days old. Grandfather Marshall was 26,000 days old when I was reborn. I'll be 71.18 years of age. 7118 corresponding to 7117 is end. Partly. Hebrew Dictionary 7117 from 7096, a termination, literally. Going to Daniel 4:34, quoting, and at the end of the days I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honoured him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation.
Now, Ezekiel's wheels within wheels. Ezekiel's number in the Hebrew concordance is 3168, which is the value of Lord Jesus Christ in Gematria, and I'll get into that a little later. But imagine that all of these things are happening simultaneously, because after all, we're looking back on it now, we can memorise, Nebuchadnezzar, let's do a movie on Nebuchadnezzar, and we've got it running on the wall right now, and there's Nebuchadnezzar after he's going through Daniel and blah, blah, blah. There he is, he's saying exactly that. So we're watching that movie on the left-hand side of the screen. Another movie is going on, it's Wheels Within Wheels of Ezekiel. Then we've got another one going on, it's me walking down the street in Nell Street in Greensboro on a latitude where the house is, it's 31680 kilometres around the earth. Or, go back to when I was born, look up the stars, another movie playing on the right hand side here of the screen, and it shows the stars which are totaling, measuring from Jupiter, which is 88,800 miles wide. We've heard that number before. You measure from Saturn into the Sun, total all the distances in astronomical units, and it is 31.68, and on it goes. So when I'm telling you these things, just think of those things happening simultaneously, because this is how it was all dreamed up in the first place before man existed. It was all laid out. So, right, I've done it. Okay, Lucifer, give it your best shot. So we come up with a deck of cards, you might say, and in a preordained moment in time after my birth, the cards are going to be starting to be stacked against me. And I'm saying, do what you like. It's a bit like Leo the 13th when he had the vision, and Lucifer was asking the Lord, give me 75 years and I'll take over the church.
75 to 100.
And the Lord said, don't worry, take 100. Goes back to Job, similar prophecy. So keep that in mind. All these things are happening at the same time, because you're with me back before the earth existed. I'm dreaming all this up because I know all human beings are going to have free will, and the devil is going to get in their ear, and because of free will, I won't be saying too much. I'll send a prophet now and then, which you will turn around and kill. But they are doing that for you. Isaiah did that for you. He got sawn in half in a tree. Okay, carry on.
Is that the same, what's this?
Let's see. Yeah, that's the day of the shroud.
Okay, so this is the distance. The planets, Neptune 34.58, Pluto 30.01, Uranus 21.11. They total 85.7, plus the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn. They total 34.22. They add up to 119.92 astronomical units. And of course 119 is Adam and means to show blood. Rosy, be dyed, made, red, ruddy.
So in other words, I was dying on behalf of Adam. Adam was the one that sinned, not Eve. Adam caused the problem, and therefore Adam, as a man, I become to the earth in the same body of a man, but the soul is God. And that is why it is saying here, made red, because the blood ends up on the shroud. In the blood is the soul of myself, the Father, and that is why the Catholic Church has all these fathers. Every time we go to a church, there's a father there. I said, never call anybody father.
That's right, as Jesus, do not call anybody father on the earth.
So that's another thing. You see the indications of the Catholic Church, how evil it become, because the Jews got in their very early stages.
Now, the Hebrew total of 3422 means yellowish. Hello. This is what the Billy Rubin stains on the shroud are all about. Then the Greek 3422 is from 3421, a reminder, memorandum, that is record, memorial.
Okay, so the stars are telling you that it's a yellow shroud and it's got blood on it, and it's a memorial. Now we're getting over to India. Just see what you can make of that.
Alright, so this is a diagram for the radio listeners. That's the 20 degrees north parallel.
It's 20 degrees north parallel.
Yes.
And it's the most southern point of Sri Lanka, which represents hell. Okay?
Right.
In the Sri Lankan or Indian story, their myth talks about how Noah released a dove, and the dove came back. He released a raven, and the raven came back. Raven flies very high altitudes, so it's looking for a land sticking up above the surface of the sea after the flood. So he goes out a second time. Now the raven's got telescopic vision and flies at 15,000 feet, and it doesn't come back. So once it gets up there, Noah's watching, sees which direction it goes in, and it's heading towards the land, because it wants to get off the ark, right? It's going towards the land, and it lands on the land, Adam's Peak, in fact.
Yes.
And then, after a while, you've got to be careful, because the raven eats meat. So he sends a dove out, and a dove representing Jesus in the martial coat of arms. It comes back with an olive branch, and that is the coat of arms, which I haven't put in there, which I will later on, and we'll do another upload when it's more complete.
All right. Now, also, along that 20 degrees north latitude, the distance across India is 888 miles.
0.8 miles.
Miles. And the leg down to the tip, southernmost tip of Colombo is also 888.
No.
No?
Keep going, you'll find it soon.
So the length of the three legs in the triangle.
The one to Colombo is 1694 kilometres. What's 1694?
Emmanuel.
Right. Now you'll see the one above it, it's going to the 3 points of the southern point of India, straight up to the east side of the 20 degree latitude, 888.8 miles across, and then back down. Now it's 888 miles to the southern point of India. On the right leg, that is the east side, so we've got a triangle here. But the total length around the whole three is 2424 nautical miles.
And 2424.
So just go to your next one. There's a Sri Lanka below that, 1694. We can see how the line is direct line, that's 1694.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, now if you go to the next one, now we'll see how it is shaped.
Right.
So it's 888 nautical miles from the tip on the right hand side of East India to the southern tip of India. Back up to the left side, which is the west side, to the uttermost area, and then across, that's on the sea, on the beach, and then across 888 miles to the east side. So you've got 888 across the top in miles, you've got 888 in nautical miles on the side, on the right hand side down to the tip, that's the east side, down to the southernmost tip of India, and then back up to the west side, most westerly side of the 888 line, running across on the 20 degree latitude back to where we started, and the distance is 2424 nautical miles, which is Jesus in Greek, concordance numbers. I think I explained all that. That's a bit more detailed there.
Yes.
Making it more explanation. So you really have to go into the YouTube and see it. And it's a bit sloppy, but I have to apologise for that because I'm being rushed. We've got to get away to India, and I wasn't going to do any more of that, bugger it. Now, this is a house we're going to be staying at, which my little sweetie here. She will verify this, I never prompt her in any direction whatsoever.
Nope. Frankly, my dear, I couldn't give a damn. He just lets me go and do wherever I'm plenty to go.
I don't care where we're going to stay in India, you work it out. So what did you do? Tell the story, how it all came about.
Oh, well, I used one particular site just to
Okay, that's enough. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and I always do a thorough look. I call it spying out the land, and you cannot rush me, and I will not book something that I don't feel is it. And I know when I arrive at the it. So yes, this place that we'll be staying in for the first week is an apartment with a lovely young Indian couple. And yes, they have the Banksy over the minimalist lounge, but they have Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper over the dining area. So I looked at that and I go, this is it. And it just happens to measure 5,624 nautical miles back to, is that to your birth home? Yes. 5624, of course, is the total of the Strong's Greek New Testament, the word count and the word total. The last word you can look at, the paper edition, is 5624.
Be very careful if you're doing it on the internet. I haven't checked it, but they're very likely would have changed it. I know they changed the Hebrew. So you've got to watch these Jews, they're in control of everything. So as soon as I announce something, but you can go into any library and you'll find the Strong's Concordance, and that's what the numbers are.
And we have two of the...
We've got two Strong's
two paper, the 1830s. All right, so it's all preordained, and that is a photograph from the...
That's the Last Supper on
website.
the wall.
That's the Last Supper on the wall in the dining area where we'll be staying.
It's a close-up of the Last Supper, so making sure that we got the right deal here. Right, now this is something probably a bit confusing for you, darling, so I'll just go through it.
Yeah, if you would, because I've...
as I say, Ash hasn't seen this yet, so I'll just explain this. What we're looking at is the dimensions of the Great Pyramid. And just to explain, the height of the wall, the far wall of the Queen's Chamber, which is unfinished, is 184.2642. That number in Greek is the word XL Oth Rio, from 1537 and 3645, to extirpate, destroy. The Greek 642 is holy, and bereave, holy from intercourse. In other words, the world is consumed by immorality of nature that the Jews love, and of course it's very, very anti-child, anti-righteousness, anti-innocence, anti-virginity, all this kind of thing. Now when we add the 184.2642, that is the height of the far wall of the Queen's Chamber, we add it to the distance from the Grand Gallery right the way through to the far wall, which is a distance of 1727.8573. That totals 1912.1215. 1912 is India. The word is Hodo, Hindustan, India in the Hebrew concordance. The 1215 is from plunderer, by extension, gain, usually unjust. And this is what the English did when they went there, and it is why they've actually shot themselves in the foot. Instead of doing the right thing, they could have controlled it. But since they stole everything they could out of India and made slaves out of everybody, this caused Gandhi to raise up against them. Now, I was in a small town in South Africa, and I'll try and say the word, it's difficult to say because it's an Afrikaner word. Vereniging. Right? That's where Gandhi was from. I was standing outside the shop where he was a lawyer. Right? And I had two girlfriends over there. They was about 6 foot 2 inches tall, and they owned a Mini, and they used to, lovely girls, they used to come and drive me around different places. But I only knew them for a very short while, and because that would break their heart, didn't I? So anyhow, yes, how I met this one girl, Linda, they're both called Linda actually, went to a party in a place called Hillbrow. And being an Australian, they at that time were all interested in Australians, sort of the foreign boy on the block. And all of the ladies had naughty ideas, and I said, "Get away, you bastards, get back." I had a bit of a cane, it's a stick with me, I hit him with it. Anyhow, this girl was sitting in a corner, it was dark, and in a chair, and I walked up and asked her to dance. And she wasn't sitting in the chair at all, she was sitting on the floor. She was as big as me. There's a big people over there, but she was a lovely girl, irregardless of the fact that she was as big as me. And her girlfriend was also as big. And the poor things, I felt sorry for them because they couldn't get a boyfriend. It was too big. But they were lovely girls, lovely personalities, make great wives. So yeah, so that was that. So anyhow, I was only there for a short period of time, 2 weeks or something, and then I had to go to work, and they would come and pick me up. They'd drive out from Johannesburg to the place called Rheinchen, and I'd be standing outside the very lawyer's office, which was started by Gandhi. So what we've done here is then we've got India identified by the length to the far wall from the Grand Gallery representing the earth to the unfinished area of the Sodom and Gomorrah is what the Queen's Chamber represents. We'll get to that in a moment. So there's a little bit of a close-up of it. There's your two distances, 1521, 7914, to the first wall as we go out of the chamber back towards the Grand Gallery. The chamber itself, from the inner wall, the closest to the Grand Gallery is 1521. Now, I wanted to show you those numbers here because we translate those into a decimal degree. So we look up 15.217914 degrees and we put it into the GPS and see where it comes up in India. And then we'd also take another one, 17.278573. So we've moved the decimal point over 2 places, and that gives us another latitude in India, which we'll get to in a moment. Okay, so there's a close-up of the distances showing the white line. The 1521 is the white line, which means to lead into the river of paradise. And as it hasn't happened yet, we haven't let anybody in yet. So we've done the same numbers before. It shows you that it's the number India. And the width of the Queen's Chamber is 206 plus a little bit, but roughly 206, and that's how many bones there are in the human body. Right? So we're looking at a future raising Ezekiel prophecy of the bones regaining their flesh. That's what we're talking about here, because we're going into the next phase of creation, which is going to surprise everybody. Now you can read that one, that's pretty straightforward.
So the area of the unfinished Queen's Chamber means Sodom. The dreadful demon I married, Eileen Jost Rosewarne. The name has a gematria of 226. The depth of the chamber is 226.67252 and the width is 206.06593. The 206 is human bones total.
So the area is 46709.4836392436, and I think you might be gathering I do things pretty well thoroughly.
Now,
we're going out to about 11 decimal places there.
So,
sorry, you go ahead.
All right, yeah, so that's the chamber area, so that the main body of it is 46709, and then the decimals, 0.4836396246. Now 467094836339 and 2436 are all the same. It's all Sodom. 4670, plural of Hebrew origin, 5467, Sodoma, Sedem, a place in Palestine, Sodom. 948 is bedeluso, stink, to be disgusted, that is idolatry, abhor, abominable. Hebrew 3639 from 3637, disgrace, confusion, dishonour, reproach, shame. 2436 is jake or cake and kau root, meaning to inflows. Aware of my fate, so this is Yah knowing about Eileen, his first wife. I knew her in my mind from a child. I daily dreaded growing up into the fate I would have to endure. I also knew that only I could endure against a normal, loving young man's desire to love a decent woman, have children that would love me, but my fate was preordained. I pacified myself with searching for the sacred key, the key of the house of David. The coffee shop where we met, this is Eileen, my brother arranged it. It is 3168 feet above sea level. The distance to the planets from Jupiter to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, on my rebirth date, 31.68 astronomical units. The house I would live with my third wife, Michelle Sheila Nye, on Nell Street, Greensboro, Melbourne, is on a latitude that is 31,680 kilometres around the Earth and 5,813 from the South Pole, the completed height of the altar to the Lord in Egypt, which is Isaiah 19 verses 19 and 20, being 5813 pyramid inches. Now, this is Michelle. Her youngest child is 11.626 years younger than my eldest child. I married my first wife on April 23rd, 1966. 1966 is Lucifer in the Hebrew Concordance. I was 1162.6 weeks old. Michelle is 1162.6 days younger than myself. Imagine now a spiritual battle. Lucifer is on one side of the table, I on the other. Let it stack the deck to maneuver my fate, which on cue directs my life with each card. So it thinks. Bottom line, it has only so many cards to play, but unknown to them, I own the deck, and thus I stacked all possibilities into the deck. Once one card is dealt from the bottom of the deck, each card has many facets far and above the Jews' collective mentality. And so I, as a man, am playing the world's demons, the Jews, who are Lucifer's manifestations, which appear as men.
What do you make of that? Can you explain what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In layman's terms?
Well, the bottom line is, sitting in a card game and Lucifer's cheating, stack the deck against you, but you are outsmarting. And, well, the deck are the Jews.
Well, what I'm basically trying to say is, in the pre-life, before the earth existed, man has free will. That's the whole idea. You've got to be made in God's image. You're going to have free will, no? And they will eventually turn to evil, because this is what happens. With free will, you have the innocence that will be set upon by the in secret occult. They will set upon and dominate because of what they are. And that type of mentality is always driven by a sexual deviant nature. And this is why the Khazar Jews out of Russia were formerly a serpent cult, a phallic serpent cult. Right? The circumcision, for example, is like the serpent that sheds its skin every year.
Mm.
Right? That's why they do it. Also, when you circumcise a child as a baby, you alter the brain passageways, and they fixate on something that is luring them into a world of sexual domination of the male phallic religion. Right. So all these cards, when you pick up a card, it might look at any deck, go into any shop and buy a deck of cards and look at it. It's got dimensions, it's got radiuses on the corners, it's got thickness, it's got weight, and on the other side, where the numbers are, they're either red or black. They could be a spade, they can be a 5, a 6, a 7, 8, and all the way through. They can be a queen, it can be a heart, it can be this, but all those things actually weigh differently. They wouldn't have thought of that. That's the whole point. How many people out there, as I'm saying it, think of it. If you turn the card over, the pattern on the card might have so many little squiggles, so many straight lines, so many, what distance is apart, what area each of them take up, what's the total number of them, what area it is on the white background or whatever colour it is, and what colour the particular cards are. All these are variables. So, I get a card dropped in front of me. This is Lucifer having to go, right? It doesn't know any of that. It thinks it's got the ace of spades. Right? But that's not the answer. In fact, when I was locked up in the Forensic Institute in Canada, they decided and it's normal procedure, to give me an IQ test. And I didn't have my glasses with me and all this kind of thing. And I'd had eye strain at that point, so I couldn't see the fine print, because they use the glasses for fine print. So they give it to me in fine print. And they had this series of 7 very crudely drawn, hand-drawn images of a man in a car driving down the street, and he's got a chauffeur in front. It's about a 1910 Rolls Royce, and he sees this girl walking past, very pretty in a dotted dress, and then he stops, and next thing she's in the car with him, and he's giving her a kiss and they're driving off. You have to arrange the cards in certain order. So I commented on the arrangement of cards is obvious, but what isn't obvious is that when it was cut out by somebody who did it with scissors, but they did it intentionally or not. I said, but what you've got is different areas of the card. You've got different angles, you've got different lengths, you've got different shading, you've got different intent. She's innocent, she's after money, she's broke, he's filthy rich, she's a Jew, etc. And on it goes. So I did all these things explaining. I said, but this childishness that you're giving me decks of cars of a 1910 Rolls Royce and probably weren't drawn in 1910 was after that to fool a person who was being tested for IQ. I said, if you really want to know what man's IQ is, put a pyramid down in front of me and I'll tell you what it is. Come back with IQ unascertainable. I think that's the first time in history. Because it is. I mean, you keep on throwing them at me, I'll keep on coming back at you, you'll never be able to follow where I go. Right? Therefore, if you're confused by it, you're the IQ tester and the person's written it out and they've used it for 100 years or whatever the case may be, suddenly they shot themselves in the foot. They've got someone who has outsmarted them. And that is what I'm trying to say with the cards that's been stacked against me. I go into the Forensic Institute, you think, oh, whoopee, I'm committed as being mad because I'm saying I'm Christ, also the most royal person. I say to the psychiatrist, all you got to do is go to the Burke Peerage and look up my family's name and history. And so there it is, I'm the most royal person. Well, oh no, I said, oh, that's no, I can't do it. So I'll go with you. I'll show you, let's go. Oh, no. So this is how it was carrying on. These people are so stupid. They don't think it's possible that someone is telling the truth because you're mentally ill. So it goes on and on and on, but the actual number on the road of the Forensic Institute is the same number as the width of Mars. The day I was committed was the same date as the Star of Bethlehem, June the 17th. This is in 1996. And the moon overhead was 77.77% full. Now, I could have explained it then when I'm talking to psychiatrists, but they're not smart enough to get it. If you embarrass them, they'll turn on you. So this lady, she was 500 pounds, she weighed an ounce, she had beautiful skin because it was so tight. Jewish lady. So I seduced her mentally and physically. What's that lovely perfume you're wearing? Oh, what have you done to your hair? You know, done like that. Well, every time I went in there daily, and sometimes twice a day, I'd go in there to talk to her, and I'd be talking about how gorgeous she was. Eventually she got me out. Who outsmarted who here? They can keep you in forever. Okay, next slide.
India. We see how the passage into the unfinished world, so this is going back to the diagram of the pyramid over India, has the dimensions of Sodom, and all things are borrowed to righteousness. The length of the passage are to the entrance, that is, now and the far wall completion, and the 1521 is to lead into paradise. These numbers are latitudes, 2 points below the 20-degree level, which is 88.8 miles wide. A line from the east to the southern tip is 888 nautical miles, and a circumnavigation of the three sides is 2424 nautical miles. Jesus, of course, is the 888 Gematria in Greek, and 2424 is the Jesus concordance number in the Greek concordance. India and Sri Lanka spell out the story when the pyramid is overlaid with the chambers constrained in size by the coastline of India. The ascending passage, 286.1 pyramid inches out of hell, enters into the wall through the grotto representing the tomb.
So if we go to the next thing, and I'll explain that. We see the dark black line is coming from, that represents Jerusalem by another series of drawings, and the black line straight down goes down to sea level, so that is the pit of hell. Sea level is Sheol, where hell is, so crucifixion occurs in the black area. Coming out of that and then going up the dark line towards, this is pointing towards the North Star. Now remember that the pyramid is at 30 degrees latitude, so therefore on a circle it's almost that black line going out to the opening of the front on the right hand side there is actually very similar and parallel to the axis of the Earth, and it would cross the axis of the Earth at 51514.3 miles in space, which is the face angle of the Great Pyramid in degrees, 14.3 degrees, the same number. So in other words, the axis and the line pointing out into space, which you could say like a telescope or like a fire a laser beam out into space, where it crosses the axis of the Earth is that number, the face angle of the pyramid, which is the same number as the number of the repose number of your bones. So if you take your bones and dry them out, grind them in and put them in a pile, into a pile, it forms an angle, as all powders do. It's called the angle of repose, which is the same as the pi angle, 14.3 degrees. So you see then that coming up towards Sri Lanka, which is representative also of hell, we get to a point 286.1 pyramid inches, and that is, I'll point to it with my little pinky here, from that point there to that point there where this black line goes up to the grotto, which is all bedrock. This is already in bedrock. So the builders knew when they built it that they would drill a hole up through here and find in the bedrock the grotto. In that grotto there, representing the tomb, is a shape of a lamb's head. Natural formation. Then they carry on to, they come bursting out through the bedrock here, and then they start building it in. As they lay the layers of masonry, they build it up to build all this in it. Now we're going up through here, so this is the miracle part. And as we're going up, you'll notice that red line is 88 miles long from that point, nautical miles, to that point, the southern point of India. It's all constrained within these dimensions here, right? So the Queen's Chamber, for example, and the King's Chamber limits how far you can expand or contract this map. And to get that to stay within the constraints of the size of India, you've got to end up like that line there to that line there, fits into India, and you expand it till it just sits, and the King's Chamber's up here. So what you've got then is a line coming straight up here, right? It's the blue line, through the tip of the Queen's Chamber ceiling. There's two lintels, very large blocks of limestone. It goes through the centre of that. So this is 286.1 up this ascending passage. Then it drills into the side of the rock, goes up, discovers a grotto. The red line goes up through it, meaning blood. It is 888 nautical miles long. That's the red line. And you see in the bottom when you look at the map, this red line here is 888 nautical miles. I didn't put nautical miles in because I was getting tired. That's 2 extra keystrokes, right? And then we go to the next one. You see on the left-hand side here a bit of a close-up of it. I'll try to make it so you can see where it is. It's going up through the top of the Queen's Chamber. So it's now going past this line here. That line there is the 1521 line. and it's pointing up into the king's chamber. So we'll carry on. You want to read that first?
Okay, so the Jesus red line out of hell through the tomb to emerge on the 20 degrees latitude, and it stretches alone 888 miles across India. Next, the blue line passes through the tip of the white lintels, joining the two 888 lines. Add the blue length and we have 2424 nautical miles.
Okay, go to the next one.
Extend the blue line and it locates the king's chamber and the coffer.
What I've done there, I've put a thick blue line in and a white line inside it so you can see it more clearly. It passes right through the top of the Queen's Chamber lintel and comes out at the one end of the entrance and the King's Coffer. That's where it comes out. It hits the end of the King's Coffer.
Mm.
So what I've got on the screen here is the 1521.7914, which is a latitude, which is the bottom part of that blue four-sided shape. That is the distance you can measure across there. I'm not doing it this day, I'm just showing you where it is. That is in degrees, 15.217914.
Right.
The one above it is the length of the passage going to the far wall, which is 17 degrees, 0.278573. So you can see where we're going with this. That's how we get to this point.
Now, we will be in India for the solar eclipse that is occurring on March the 20th, 2015. Then we will return to Australia for the blood moon, which is occurring April the 4th. Then following these two events, the terrible day of the Lord. Reading Joel 2:31, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood.
It should be 2:32, the next bit.
Right, before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Has a Gematria, day of the Lord come, has a Gematria of 1037, verse 32, and it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. Now India is the checkmate, the last card for all religions do believe a Krishna figure will return as a man, an immortal man, which I have demonstrated, being the most dangerous man alive, who is ordained to destroy the Jews.
So in other words, I've had a long time to try and kill me, and I haven't done it. I tried out. Every possible sneaky way you could think of, using hospitals in particular to do it. Or people that just sneak up and give me all sorts of poisons. And so there we go. So I guess next slide. That's a photograph that's inside the Great Pyramid. The 31001 is my rebirth date in Julian days, which is 2431101. I've left a bloody one out there. See, I'm getting tired. It should be 31101, typo. I've got it in the drawing there. And how you do that, you take the distance in, which is 537.0278 pyramid inches from the great step, passing through the antechamber, the passage going to the far wall. And then you go the 286.1 pyramid inches to the coffer off that centre line of the passage. Then you go to the ceiling, which is 230.05379, and you add them all together, times the lunation, which is time, 29.53052, gives you 31101, which is the Julian day I was born on. And that's it.
That's the end.
That's the end, baby.
The end. 7118.
That's right.
End.
That's my age on the 20th.
Of March. When the sun will be darkened.
And the sun will be darkened over England. And they're not too happy about it because they know it's coming. These Jews think that the red moon is going to be part of their prophecies. And of course it isn't. It's just bullshit for them.
Alright, so we go out with the choir and we'll be back when we can.
Yes.
From India.
Yes.
Later Gators. Love to all and peace.
And remember, in India, they love the swastika, and the most popular selling book is Mein Kampf.
They study Hitler's economic plan.
They're not idiots in India. They got some silly gods, but hey, I'll take it. I can
The Go Lightly Martial Out on freedomtalkradio.net.
Now, we're off to celebrate Joel's birthday.
We are.
He's on March the 4th.
Joel's birthday.
Is his birthday.
Now, just as I was typing Joel into that, Joel tried
Joel
to
at the door,
and I told him
that's
to take away.
Totally.
And I said, come in. Right?
Yeah, we did.
But he's been embarrassed because
And of course,
it's a bit soft in the middle.
now you've already done the numbers on March the 4th, your age, etc. And it's harvest.
Yeah.
Hello.
Harvest time.
Harvest. All right. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
How does it go?